Welcome back to the DeFi Football YouTube channel. This week we're going to be doing another fan interview, and this week it is Stockport County. We're joined by Russ Johnson of the Scarf Bergara War podcast. So how you doing, mate?
Are you okay?
Yeah, mine was okay as well. We had a few delays starting this with dogs kicking off, but we're sort of going good now. And obviously a delay of a few days because we were meant to be doing this, I think was it Friday or whatever, but the minute we were starting it, announcement got made that Jim Gannon, Stockport County manager for past few years, bit of a club legend, had left the club.
Yep.
And so we, obviously understandably you had to go off and do your own podcast, emergency podcast you called it, to go and cover that, which was fair enough, I thought, because you're always going to have your allegiances to your own podcast. And it did sort of take half the content we were going to talk about, perhaps, but we can still sort of talk about it. So the sort of theme for this one is we're going to be talking about Stockport County's this season, roughly how they sort of got to here, how they've played, the good, the bad, and why they are where they are in the table at this moment. We've got a few graphs that are going to be sort of graphs, you're going to call them, that are going to be coming up on screen. If you listen to just like an audio or whatever, you've got it in your pocket or whatever, it's not massive necessary, but it is good if you're sort of somewhat familiar with the graphs or whatever. So first thing starting, obviously, bit of background context, few seasons. Stockport were a Football League club, dropped down to National League, then to National League North, and under Jim Gannon found their way back up until this season. Last season, obviously, with everything that went on last season, with games getting cancelled, Stockport were up there, and the whole thing about the points per game. But for this season, going into sort of this season, then what were Stockport County fans thinking?
So there's a big thing that happened last January. So just before COVID took hold in March, I guess, for the country, we were taken over by a new owner, or new custodian, as they put it. It's a very wealthy owner, which immediately, with a lot of upheaval, made us favourites to win the division. The bookies' favourites. So our expectations are minimum playoffs, ideally, to win the division. So based on your take on that, we're currently fourth, albeit with games in hand. Some might say it's slightly underachieving. Some are saying it's spot on where we should be for the time of the season, which actually makes the departure of Jim Gannon all the more surprising.
So obviously the big sort of news, also what delayed this, was Jim Gannon getting sacked. Now in the statement, It sort of said it was cultural issues around the club, which I think is sort of, at least in my interpretation, and I'm sure you'll be able to say as well, is sort of a code word for we didn't want him in any way, and we've sort of found a bit of an excuse, if you like, to get rid of him because they want to bring their own guy in, which some people find fair enough for new owners or whatever. However, maybe that was a manager who'd only been there for a year or whatever and wasn't really doing that well. You might say that's fair enough, but for a guy who's been there for so long and he's doing so well, that's quite controversial amongst sort of the fans.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm glad you've said that as an outsider, because I've not spoke to anybody that's not a county fan yet about this. So it's quite nice to hear you say that. And yeah, the feeling is, they've found a reason to maybe get rid of him. They wanted somebody in themselves, but a part of the fan base is saying, well, as soon as you come in, why not change it? Why wait? He is a club legend. We're not going to understand whatever point you get rid of him, because he's been here 3 times. He's our most successful manager. He's played nearly 500 games for the club as well, in those days where we were in the Championship. So it was never going to be easy. I guess they're thinking potentially if we go up this season and they hang on to him and keep him on, it's going to, as time goes on, it's going to be even more and more difficult to get rid of him. I think the feeling overall is really, really bad decision, looking for an excuse to get rid of him. But then part of people's mindset is, well, this is a new regime. We've got ambitions to get into the Championship within the next 7 years. It's something that had to give at some point. But yeah, it's not gone down well. It's not gone down well. Let's put it that way.
I think, it happens quite a lot with takeovers. I think when they want their own guy, and I think there's a fair way to do it, especially if you've got somebody the club led you, and perhaps a fair way would have been, all right, if you don't get playoffs, then get rid of him. If you don't get playoffs, don't get rid of him. Or even if you did go up, then if you were getting to Christmas and you were in the bottom 2, bottom 3, perhaps then you could say, and at least then even if it's still sort of like that sort of fair because it sort of didn't meet the targets, but to do it now is a bit sort of strange. Perhaps that's something that will come out maybe in a few weeks. Perhaps there'll be a statement. We sort of said on Twitter, we put out a little bit of a statement. Perhaps they'll come up in 5 or 6 years, if someone goes on a podcast or whatever, as these things do.
Yeah.
They crop up years later when nobody really cares about them, so they could say, everything. But whatever's happened, is obviously as fans or just general outsiders won't see. Going forward then, in terms of new managers, whatever, there's been links, I don't think anything sort of official, but sort of links about, who's going to come in and how many of the current sort of coaching staff is going to stay. What is there, the sort of, what's the word? What is sort of the rumours and sort of, sort of messages from, sort of journalists or whatever that might happen with regards to the new manager?
Yeah, so the rumour is that we'll be appointing a manager by Saturday. So to take over Saturday's game, we're playing Kings Lynn tomorrow night, which will be the 26th, depending on when this goes out. And that manager is strongly rumoured to be Brighton's under-23 manager, which is Simon Rusk. And his number 2, we're hearing, is going to be Mark McGee. And staying on is going to be the current caretaker manager and Jim Gannon's assistant manager, Dave Conlon. So keeping that continuity, I think, in the backroom staff. And we've already got academy staff that used to play for the club as well. You might know the names, Michael Rains and Damien Allen. So they're at the club as well. So yeah, that's the rumour. Simon Rusk is a strong rumour.
Mm. Is there a bit of concern about that? Because I believe under 23's manager, obviously assistant Mark McGee has had sort of experience. I think it was at Motherwell for a bit, and which might seem a bit different. You might expect the more experienced guy to be the manager, but sometimes that's how it happens. Might be a bit of concern there, perhaps of not proper experience. Is under 23's manager. Is that something that county fans are a bit worried about?
Yeah, I mean, all the different opinions have come out. So yeah, inexperienced. He's I don't think he's done that well with the under-23s recently, with Brighton's under-23s. But it's a completely different league. Players get shipped off to the first team and maybe out on loan as well. So yeah, inexperience. We heard Simon Rusk to start with, and then the inexperience sort of comments came out. And then when Mark McGee was mentioned, it was sort of like, well, at least that's a bit of experience. But then Mark McGee's got somewhat of a reputation of being quite feisty on the touchline, should we say? I mean, very experienced. Don't get us wrong. The thing with Simon Rusk is he's touted to be, one of these up and coming modern day managers that perhaps is on the same wavelength as the current type of player that you get in the modern game. I don't like to use the word modern too much because the football today is always modern, isn't it? Whatever era you're in the 80s, it was modern football. So, but it just seems like today you need a certain type of manager to manage players of today's game, and Simon Rusk is touted to be that kind of manager. Got all the badges. He's really highly thought of in the game, so we're led to believe, and is destined for greater things. And we're going to get him, and then he'll probably use us as a stepping stone. I would have thought, if he does well.
It's one of them where you get these sort of new owners coming in and sort of say we're going to get to the championship or whatever by this amount of time. And it's one of them where it sounds very good, but you've got to have a plan to get there, and it's hard to sort of really do properly. But if you have a manager, and it's hard to do, because if you've got one of these managers who is viewed to be one of the next big ones, a bit like an Eddie Howe or whatever, and you've got financial backing like Bournemouth did when he took them from bottom of League Two to the Premier League, and a little bit of a break going, went off and came back, didn't he? But still, that can happen. But it's one of them where it's hard to sort of say what will happen, because it's just luck, really. It's just luck. You get the right sort of players, and if they've got connections as well, some of these new managers, if they've got connections that can bring in slightly better players than you could do, you know. So I'm always skeptical whether it's my team or I see another team when you get these new guys who come in and say we're going to get to the Championship or we're going to get to the Premier League or whatever. I'm sort of like, well, we'll see how you do things and we'll give you a year or two. And it might well be you could do that. We've seen clubs do, go back, like Luton, they went from National League, with all the problems they had, getting promoted and now to a Championship. So it can be done, but you just got to wait and see.
Yeah.
So just a bit of the background then on how County are, where they are now, and Jim Gannon obviously leaving. For this season, this will obviously be Jim Gannon managing. It's a bit sort of irrelevant now, but I think, to be fair, it's sort of interesting to see, well, this is where County are now. New man's going to come in. We'll see how that will change. So the first one we've got, the graph is about sort of going forward and attacking. And the graph say this, and County fans have been saying, making jokes about this as well. The videos about sort of, if Richie Bennett put away his chances, he'd be top of the league or whatever. Going forward, it seems the graph is saying you're creating a lot of chances, but you're not taking them as well as you should be doing.
Yeah, it's absolutely. I mean, the stats don't lie. We've been really good at getting forward, getting in the box. Depending on the type of game that Gannon played, I mean, Gannon was capable, because he's a capable manager, of switching it up. Going direct when he needed to Bennett, and or playing it sort of through the wing backs when we played a back five, or even through the middle with John Rooney as that number 10. So yeah, we create a lot. I mean, Richie Bennett. I'm going to point out Richie Bennett because he doesn't score. I think he's got 4 this season, if I'm not mistaken, but he's got 9 assists. So I wouldn't say wasteful. So if you broke the stats down into Richie Bennett himself, I'm not sure what his own expected goals is, if you like, but he's definitely not wasteful when it comes to the phase of play before the shot, because of those assists. So yeah, we do feel that we get it up there. We're good. We're really good going forward, but we just don't take the chances, and I think that's reflected in some of the stats that you've got in terms of expected goals.
And so the graph just looks at a disclaimer. These are a little bit out of date, maybe perhaps by week 2, but it's not going to be a massive difference really. So on the list, the one we've got here is second to Dover, who are, in terms of expected goals going forward. Dover obviously, not having the best of seasons, let's just say, but you actually look at the number of goals you scored, you're not as far down as Dover. You are actually somewhat scoring, which is, good. And I guess also the thing that Mashing, end of the day is at the amount. It does matter how many you score. Really, you can talk about expected goals, and that's it's interesting to see, sort of have a look at that. But Halifax are one of the most efficient, if you like, on this one, and they scored just about the same amount of goals. So it's one of them where, as long as you put the ball in the back of the net, it's fine. But it's one of them where you can sort of see, well, if a new manager is coming in, we can sort of tweak the system a little bit and, sort of change, tactics and stuff like that. You could turn those expected goals into actual goals, and that's what, matters at the end of the day.
And just something on that, something that we, County fans have been calling out for is another striker. We've got Richie Bennett, we've got Alex Reid. I know you don't just score from strikers, but these are the guys that are meant to be putting the ball in the back of the net and probably being mainly part of that expected goals and being less efficient in that. We also had a chap on loan from Bristol City, Lewis Britton, who I don't think he scored at all. He quickly went back. And then we also sent out Niall Bell on loan to Halifax, scored a bag load for Halifax on loan. One of the goals of the season, I think, was one of them was touted. We recalled him and then never played him. So it's that old adage of doing something repeatedly is a sign of what's madness. Insanity. That's the word I was looking for. So I mean, you can tweak systems, and we County fans think that's all it is. This is Jim's team still to us. So a bit of a tweak, and we'll come to the defence, I'm sure shortly. But a bit of a tweak going forward, and maybe being better at set pieces. We could be further up than 4th and be closer to Torquay.
Yeah, and now, like I said, moving on to sort of defence. This is the same graph as the last one, just for defence. We've got goals conceded going up and XG against per goal conceded. and Stockport are right in the middle of that, in that little pack in the middle. You've got some teams like your Dagenham, Redbridge, Kingsley, and your Barnet are all sprung out on the other sides. But it would seem Stockport are pretty much bang average. I think they're round about near one in terms of how efficient they are defensively. So we're not too to how efficient they are, the bang in the middle, and also to the amount of goals they are, the bang in the middle. Would you say that's a fair sort of statement, really, for defensively?
Yeah, I think it is. I think that improves and goes further to the right when we cut out the silly goals that we've conceded, especially late on in games. So one that sticks out is Altrincham at home, where we've actually been better away from home, but Altrincham at home over Christmas, we were 2-0 up, coasting, then conceded 2 goals within the last 15 minutes. You take those 2 goals out of that graph, and we're probably we're definitely further to the right. And more towards Torquay. So it's just cutting out those silly little things. And our keeper as well, Ben Inchliff, Gannon said he was the best non-league goalkeeper. Some fans, and I know he is a great goalkeeper. I'm not saying he is a cracking goalkeeper, but some fans have said that 1 or 2 of the goals maybe he could have done a bit better. But I'm in the goalkeeping union, former goalkeeping coach. I don't want to criticise any goalkeeper because it's a lonely and hard job. But yeah, I'm just sort of relaying the opinions of some fans that they feel he could have done better on some of the goals.
So I think again that number is an average. You can have a weak link, perhaps a goalkeeper, a centre back, a full back, whatever. He's a bit of a weak link and a strong one. So that is an average or what have you. It's not just sort of how it goes, really. I think every goalkeeper is going to have those mere moments, but it's like, you should have saved that or whatever. But then he'll also make some good saves, where it's like, how did he save that? So it evens itself out, really. Moving on to the third one we've got here. This is shots per 90 across the top, entrances to the opponent's box per 90. And this is this one James made. As you can tell, its graphics are a bit nicer. This one is it's somewhat similar to the first one, but sort of shows a bit of a different sort of story in terms of actually getting into the box and that's not XG. It's not counting how good the chances are to actually just getting in there, about the pressure you're putting on the teams, and as well as how well you get getting them off. And you can see Stockport miles away, Torquay are up there somewhat as well, and then next you've got something like Hartlepool, and then it's just absolutely miles away. You're like Cornwall essentially, miles away from everyone else. So again, is that sort of similar story to what we said about the first graph?
Yeah, it largely is. I mean, it links in nicely to it because this just shows how inefficient we are. If we were further down on this, maybe beyond Torquay and more towards Hartlepool, you could say, well, yeah, we're getting around the same amount of shots as them, and we're getting in the box as much as they are, but we're just scoring like them. This just shows us that we are going forward. We are the best team in the division, I would say. Probably in with some of the teams in the division above as well, because we really are creative. We're just not putting the ball in the back of the net as much as the team has the capability to and has the potential to. And it's a really telling graph, that one, because Torquay are running away with the league to a certain extent. Probably 6-7 points in front of the team behind them. But on that graph, you would look at that and just say, well, Stockport must be running away with it. Well, we're not, because we're not efficient. We're not scoring the goals that we should be taking.
I think part of it perhaps has something to do with the fact that Torquay are, Stockport, because like I said, were the bookies' favourites and tout for promotion, so they're built for this big team. So teams are going, right, okay, these are one of the better teams, going into the season or what have you. So they were sort of like, right, we'll sit back and play a bit more defensively. So it's harder for you to, break them down with all the chances compared to if you were in the team league above. Stockport aren't going to be one of the bookies' favourites. Let's just say hypothetically put you in League Two, that they're going to have to go at you, and if they go at you, then these chances you're creating you might be better. Score more goals with the same chances, if you like, because they're going to have to come out at you a bit rather than sitting back defensively. Do you think that's something, not going to be the full reason, but perhaps part of the reason?
I think there's probably an element of truth in that. Yeah, possibly. If that was the case, if teams were sitting in, because two teams do tend to sit in against us because we are the favourites, and a lot of the teams, we're the big club as well. Not when we're playing Notts County and Wrexham and and Chesterfield and Hartlepool, and Torquay, but certainly some of the others. We're playing Kings Lynn tomorrow away. They're going to sit in. When they sit in, if a team sits in a lot and they are good at that, you wouldn't find yourself in the box. Whereas this graph shows us that we are getting in the box and we are getting shots off. So I don't think it's as much that element of they're sitting in and stopping us and having that back five or two banks of back 2 banks of 4 or whatever. I just think it's us. The problem is us and our ability to beat keepers. And you could probably say, well, a keeper's having great games against us. Well, maybe 1 or 2, but it wouldn't happen every time. So it's a really interesting and telling graph, that one.
And the last one we've got is XG per 90 forward across the bottom, and across the top it's XG against, which is XG against, like I said, and sort of similar to the other one where you got Stockport miles out, Torquay up there as well, and then everyone else sort of in your main sort of cluster. Again, is that just similar analysis as the other ones, would you say?
It is, yeah. I mean, you can link them all, can't you? But again, we're way out in front in terms of expected goals per 90. What's the reason why we're fourth, albeit with games in hand, is because we're in the middle of expected goals against is just at that 1.1 bracket. So we will score 2, but you'll score 1. So that would tell me that you're expected to win 2-1 every match, which is about right. We do concede goals, and a team that wants to win the division has to get clean sheets. Clearly, obviously, unless you're going to win 2, score 2 every match and win 2-1 every match. The other thing about this is that because we're not taking our chances, teams get confident as games go on. So again, the Altrincham one, 2-0. But by the time it was 2-0 and they got one back, we could have been 3-4, 4-0 up. At which game the game's gone. Altrincham probably wouldn't attack in the way they were. While it's still 2-0 and you still got a chance, with 20, 15 minutes to go, and you get a goal, it gives you confidence. And I think that lack of being clinical puts added pressure on the defence, and then teams gain confidence with that. Right, we beat Weymouth 5-2 earlier in the season away from home. I think we were losing 1-0 and we were losing 2-1. So we are susceptible, and I think any new manager that comes in will either want to improve in being more clinical, which would kill games off and put teams to bed, or he's going to want to cut out the stupid and silly mistakes that we're making at the back when we are 2-0 up.
Moving on to not anymore graphs, really, just stats. And I should just say these were the stats we powered for the last episode. We've had games since then, so again a little bit out of date, but it still presents the same sort of thing. And I found this interesting. It's just one stat about most corners for, if you like, corners you've won, if you like. And then the second least against, the least of these. What do you think the sort of stories behind that? Because I looked at that and I thought it's a bit strange that you had the most for and least against or whatever. Do you think that sort of again links to sort of the other graphs that we had, or what? It seems just sort of, I just saw that and I thought it seems a bit strange that it's so sort of opposite.
Yeah, I think it does link. It's all part of us and how much pressure we put teams under, and we are in terms of conceding sort of free kicks and corners. We are very efficient. I don't know if there's a stat for that. Jim Gannon. I know it's not a foul, but Jim Gannon really did like to not concede fouls in and around the box. Dangerous free kicks in and around the box. He's probably the same with corners. Get it out for a throw-in first and foremost, rather than a corner. I know you can. Every manager probably says that, but he did like to be efficient in that. And going forward, corners for which given our aerial ability at corners with the likes of Liam Hogan and Ash Palmer in central defence, makes everybody wonder why, everybody associated county, why we're not scoring more from the corners. and being further up the table. So it all kind of adds, it's all kind of like cyclical and adds into the whole sort of picture of this feeling that I said at the top of the show is, well, some people think we're underachieving, being fourth, albeit with games in hand. Some people think, well, we're doing okay, we're clicking okay, and Jim Gannon's teams, traditionally, if you like, do better in the second half of the seasons that he's been in charge of us. So it's a really interesting one. Yeah, I didn't know that stat about the corners, but I know. Do you know what? I know a lot of people put Ash Palmer to score first bets on because he does tend to score from corners. He did in the he did last season a lot anyway.
Yeah. Sort of, and this wasn't obviously in our original plan for when we was doing this, obviously. Taking what you've then seen for this season, this season so far, sorry, and the new guy, what we know about him, or who we think could be the new guy. What do we actually know about him in terms of his style of play, or what type of manager he is and what he does? What do we actually know? I know you sort of touched on it before, but is there anything that says, all right, he's sort of in the past he's done something similar with, he's got sort of a similar type of play to the players at County, and that sort of link up well. Is there any sort of suggestion of, what type of manager he is, if we know? Because he's managing under 23, so it's a bit different, and he's not really going to be under the spotlight.
Yeah, no, don't know. I mean, if he's touted as the next up and coming young English manager, and he's that up to date manager. I won't say modern, but he's that up to date manager. You'd expect it to be sort of reminiscent of teams that do well and are near the top of English football, I guess. I don't know. Time will tell. I think what he will inherit in County is a very strong set of players. One or two maybe that have come with the club from the National North days that he may want to either develop, which he's got form off. He develops players. Does Simon Rusk, and there may be one or two ideas that he's got in his head to to bring players in to add to the team. I personally can't see much change in the way we play or the personnel. I think all the tools are there. He just needs to get the best out of them. I think Jim Gannon was doing that. This is why we're shocked that he left, by the way.
Yeah.
There was just that one little click that we felt was missing, which was putting, for the amount of chances we were getting, putting the ball in the back of the net. So yeah, I don't think he's got to do much. It's probably. I can see why he would go for it, because with this job, you've got it on a plate basically. You've got an owner that's got loads of money. We've done the ground up. We've got a new training facility. New changing rooms, new dugout. All this, it's all nice and shiny. And there's a team there that's got the core of a winning team from the National League North, with a load of new faces, a load of really quality players bolted onto that, and they're playing. It's not like we've got all this shiny new stuff and we're near the bottom, because we're not. He's just got to feed and water it, I would say.
So what do you think the sort of means for the County fans really as well? We know what's happened with the club over the past few years. They went down, to National League and National League North, and now sort of bouncing back. Obviously, I think I saw, like I said, most County fans were like, we're back Gannon, to get us up there. And then it's one of them where he's now been sacked. What do you think really the team did go up this season? What would that mean to the fans after everything that has happened over the past few years to them?
It'd mean a lot. It's a football league club, as I'm sure you'll agree, and many football league fans will agree. 105 years in the football league, so yeah, it means massive to us. Talking on my own podcast, we would have liked to have done that with Jim Gannon. It'd have felt special with Jim, because he took us up from the National League North. That's not going to be the case. So the new, whoever does take us up, it's going to mean the absolute world to us, because that's where we belong. We're getting, when we're allowed in the ground, we're getting anything between 4,000 and 6,000 through the gate now, and even in National League North. I mean, going down to National League North, I've been on other podcasts and explained this, especially an Oldham one. I've been on theirs and said it's dire. As you know, knowing what you're used to in the football league and having to go down to the National League is bad enough. Then going part time, and then going into semi-professional, obviously, then into regional football and playing teams that just haven't got any infrastructure. We were taking 1,000 away to Colwyn Bay, and they just couldn't cope with us. They just couldn't cope with the amount of people that we were taking. So it's been an experience, but yeah, we're ready to go back up now, and it's kind of bittersweet because, you know, in all throughout that phase, and maybe all throughout county lives before that, everybody wishes that somebody would take over their club and you know, a rich man would come along. You know, you can tick that sugar daddy button on Football Manager when you play that kind of thing. But in reality, a lot of people are seeing it, you know, crystallize now, and yes, they are winners, they are business people, they want success. So sacking Jim Gannon has left a real bitter taste in their mouth. It's more the way they've gone about it, really, and I think people are coming round now. But we've got to accept now that, you know, the badge has changed. You know, it looks like Rochdale's now, or Brentford's.
Yeah.
You know, the ground's been done up. We've got to accept that if a manager comes in like Simon Rusk, if he comes in and he doesn't perform to what they expect, they will get rid of him. Whereas we, as county fans, I don't really know what other fans feel this, but we like to get to know our manager, and certainly with Jim Gannon, he created the culture around the club. He was the club, he was the culture. So to just get rid of that and then bring, you know, almost like a regen in to replace it, it's a bit soulless to us. I mean, we'll have to get used to it. We'll have to learn, and I'm sure we will. You know, as we start to move up the leagues, I'm sure people will forget, and it will just be one of those clubs. And I certainly see ourselves in the future as a Brentford type of model, maybe a Luton type of model, where, you know, we are sort of flitting between League One and the Championship, which is nice. And, you know, not every club gets that chance. And, you know, I've even thought of it myself. I wish we had a sugar daddy. I wish someone would take over. Well, now it's happened. It's happening. So, you know, people need to get on board with it, I think. That'd be my take.
Is it also, we see it because when these new managers, new owners, come in, that they do want to, at least rich ones. There's a difference between like a poor manager who, poor owner, I keep saying manager, poor owner who is just trying to keep the club going along. And he's sort of being honest, said, I want to sell the club because I don't want to waste any more money on it. Just trying to put in the moment and just want to keep it going, keep the club in the National League or the League Two or League One, just at that level, just so they can sell it on to whoever wants to buy it and take it off their hands.
Yeah.
Do someone who says, no, we want to get to a championship within 5 years or 10 years or whatever the thing is. There's a difference there that you could be with the first guy. You could sort of be right. He's been honest. He wants to sell the club, so you can't really have hate towards him because like I want to sell the club. So you know, getting annoyed at him is sort of hard. And you've got to be a rich guy who's, you know, says, well, I want to do it my way. Getting rid of traditions. You know, I don't know what the reaction was to changing the badge, but that could be, you know, that could be a bit controversial sometimes, changing the badge, especially to a circle badge, you know, which a copy and paste, which I personally don't like, but maybe county fans were fine with that. And then also stuff like perhaps the way they might buy a bit of time, buy a bit of what would the word be like? Buy time essentially, and buy, you know, some brownie points, some good points from the fans.
Yeah.
We'll build a new training ground. We'll do all this. I saw the video where they, you know, did up the stadium or whatever. That can then also go back in the favour. Is it one of them where do you think it could turn sour, especially after this with sacking Gannon, that they might sort of go, nah, I don't think they might have loads of money, but it could blow up in the face by pumping loads of money in, getting with debt when they realise, oh no, this isn't as easy as we thought it would be. Do you think it could blow up in the faces?
I suppose it could do, yeah. I mean, these guys are super, super professional. Every decision they've done before sacking Gannon, has been really, really welcomed. Every communication they put out has been top draw. It really has. In fact, the only thing that we had a bit of a gripe with them before the Gannon sacking was, the Gannon departure. He didn't get sacked. The Gannon departure was the badge, because they changed it to a circle, and that wasn't the issue. It's because it had 1883 twice on it. So that's the only thing that anybody. Everything else. You look at our live streams, and it's like something off BT Sport. It's fantastic. So it could turn sour. I think the difference between Mark Stott is his name, and his company, and other big takeovers. And I've hated other takeovers. The soulless ones, or the ones where Salford play in orange. That Class of '92 takeover, they play in red, white, and black now because that's United. Fleetwood get taken over by an Arsenal fan. They rename the ground Highbury. They play in red and white. But those sort of takeovers, I don't like those. With our takeover, Mark Stott he came in and his takeover was all around philanthropy. So he's a local businessman. Made his money in property development, and sort of now does a lot out in Dubai. So he's a very, very rich, wealthy man, and he wants Stockport County to be a community club with a community hub and a training ground and an academy presence in the borough, which we've never had. Not in my lifetime. So it will take a lot for it to blow up in the face. So I think what they've done is they've got the hard decision out of the way, and it really, really was the hard decision, because, like we said before, if Jim Gannon gets us up, the longer they leave it, the harder it becomes. Okay, there's probably no ideal time to get rid of Jim, but if that's the person they didn't want, then at some point they're going to have to get rid of him. You're right, just alluding to what you say about doing the ground up. There are some fans been saying, well, have they just been sort of grooming us, to want of a better phrase, do the ground up, training ground. That'll ease the blow when they come to get rid of Gannon. But on the flip side, Gannon, we love him. I've got a picture of him up in this bar where you see me now. He has got form, of arguing with players, arguing with staff. You might remember he got thrown off a Port Vale bus coming back from an away game once, because he had arguments with the players, and they all said, you need to get off the bus, otherwise we're gonna do something. And Jeff Horsfield was on the same bus, and it's so he has got form. So we don't know what's gone on. Like you say, we probably never will. Hopefully he'll come on my podcast, on our podcast, maybe in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, and tell us what went on. But the football train moves on. So yeah, it's at the moment everyone's a bit sore, but really, really excited about what's about to happen, which is us. If we don't go up this season, we'll try our best next season, and we'll keep on plugging away with the new resources we've got, which just seems to be endless at the moment.
And you mentioned your podcast there, which we're going to come to the end of this now. I think for about 40 minutes, maybe 45 minutes, this will be, which is about right. That's how long we normally do. For your podcast, obviously, the name, I'm going to double check it. The Scarf Bergara War, which is one of your former managers, I believe, is it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Listen, I could barely pronounce some of the English names, so if any sort of foreign names, I'm like, double checking that. At the best of times. Which, to be fair, someone try pronouncing some of, foreigners try pronouncing some of my names, they might not get that right, so that's fair enough. Anyway, your sort of podcast and what you do, for County. Just want to quickly go through. I know County. A lot of the people watching this, let's be honest, will be County fans, so will already be familiar with it. But for those who are not County fans, what do you do on the podcast? What's it about? What's your sort of general theme of it? Obviously, Stockport County.
Yeah, so it's the Scarf Bergara War. It's basically a fans podcast. I'm the co-founder and co-presenter. We have a weekly show which is called the Review Preview Show, which we just talk about the matches last week's, next week's, the ones that have just gone. We have a monthly one as well, where we go into a bit more depth, and we cover some of our Tea Party issues, which is Tea Party, very famous fanzine from the 90s that's synonymous with Stockport County fans. And then every now and again we get a player on. So we've we've got a player on this week. Had a night, former player Darren Ryan on last week. We've had Danny Lloyd on, Mike Flynn, some of the names that you might know from County's history, and yeah, it's going well. And we're about to do a series soon about Danny Bergara with some of his family members, just charting his life in football. And he was the first foreign manager to lead an English side out domestically at Wembley. So there you go.
Interesting stat.
Well, the stat for you.
Yeah, we'll put that on there. We'll leave a link in the description for this as well. I'll get a link off you. It's at County Podcast on Twitter as well. But I'll leave
that's right.
Lots of links to see, anyone who's not familiar with it can go and have a follow on Twitter and, have a link and go and have a listen. Sounds like you've got lots of different things that really sort of similar to what we're doing. We're doing your theme is Stockport County, our theme is National League, where we're doing lots of different things. So there'll be something for, you won't like everything, but there'll be something for everyone really, whether that be, interviews with players or whatever. Quickly, a bit of a prediction almost, but this season then, assuming that the new manager is who you think it is, what do you think is going to happen?
I think we'll end up in the playoffs unless things drastically change. Torquay will probably, I don't know if they'll see it out or not. I mean, I take it we're assuming the season will end as well.
Yeah.
Under current circumstances, I think we'll be in the playoffs, and we'll have a really, really good chance of winning the playoffs. Because it's been clear that we are at the moment, we seem to be better than every team that we come and play against, although we can't beat every team that we play against, and there is a difference. So I think playoffs, and assuming it is Simon Rusk and he continues with the personnel and the style of football that's got us to fourth in the league so far.
There we go. So you reckon playoffs, and I'll just reiterate it again. Go and have a link have a look at the podcast. Like I said, we'll leave it link in the description. And thanks for you, mate, for taking time out and coming and having a chat, and perhaps end of the season, whatever's happened. I don't think we're getting relegated. I know we'll say get relegated, get promoted, whatever. I don't think you would get relegated, but whatever happens, we'll maybe do another one of these and have a look over the season, what went right, what went wrong, and from where we are now. So thanks definitely for coming on, mate.